This new technique is 100% cheating in the world of miniature painting, and I guarantee you, you're about to see a whole bunch of people copying it and putting their own spin on it, and that's okay because this thing is phenomenal. Now, I've used this before, but for this tutorial, I set out to make the easiest, most beginner-friendly tutorial possible for fire and molten power weapons. But what I got was something very different. What I ended up with was the most visually interesting, most unique, and easiest to follow beginner-friendly paint tutorial for molten power weapons out there, and it's seriously as little as just 3 steps. You're gonna love it and you're gonna learn something. I guarantee it. What is up, boys and girls? I'm Gunnar, this is Misplaced Minis, and you are welcome. And today I'm gonna use contrast spot filtering to create an entirely unique, easy to paint tutorial for molten axes. And I know what you're asking, will it work for power swords also? Yes, it will. Now, I originally used this technique for my ice axe tutorial. That's on the channel too, you should check that one out. But essentially it's taking contrast paint and pulling away, doing a reductive technique to make it thinner in areas and thicker in other areas to give you a unique modeled transition that you're not gonna get from wet blending, glazing, layering, or anything like that. It is 100% unique and it can only be done using this technique. So let's get into it. So as always, we're gonna give you off ramps. This is where you can stop the process. If you like the look, it's the most time conservative way to go, and if you enjoy the way it looks, then great. But if you want to push it and you want to expand your painting ability a little bit, we'll have TTRP or Tabletop Ready Plus steps. They're going to take it up in levels so you can get a little bit more out of the paint job and you can get a little more practice and feel just a little bit more pride that you accomplished something that maybe initially you weren't sure you were going to be able to do. Let's start the clock. First, you're going to prime your mini, black, white, doesn't really matter. Either way, I recommend using an off-white. I'm using ivory as a base coat because yellow goes over off-white easier and better because science. Once your off-white's down, hit it with several thin coats of your bright yellow. Now, before we get too deep into the painting tutorial and the how this works, let's talk about the why it works. And indulge me for just a minute here. I know it's a little bit off track, but I guarantee you, you'll learn something and it might expand the way you look at paint jobs to make other paint jobs unrelated to this a little bit easier to understand. So let's pull up our color picker here and kind of see what's going on with it. The first thing you're going to notice is that the areas closest to the center, that hot core, are going to be your bright yellows, right, and your yellow whites. Those are going to represent the hottest areas. As we go out from those, now you're getting into your oranges, your yellow oranges, and then edging up towards red. Then once we get out from there, that's when you're going to have your red oranges and your deep reds as we start getting cooler and cooler. And then you're going to notice that we have these dark gray red spots towards the very outer surfaces of this brick. Now, if you'll notice, looking at all these colors, these are all warm colors. And then we look at our last one. And what color is our last one? It is a cool gray. The cool gray gives contrast from the warm tones that were originally in it in all other aspects of the paint job. It doesn't look like it should fit because of that contrast, but it does, and it works. And it makes us think, there's something going on there. So what we're gonna do with this painting is we are gonna introduce that cool gray at the end, and you'll see what kind of impact that contrast has and how it makes you look at it a little bit different, even though you might not be sure why. Now we're gonna make magic with contrast spot filtering. You can use Magmadrith Flame straight up, but I recommend mixing in contrast medium. It dries very quick and is very vibrant if you do not. Also, make sure you have some Lamia medium on the side. This is going to be your workhorse here in a few minutes. You can try to keep your orange speed paint to the edges like I did here, but honestly, I recommend just covering the whole thing with speed paint and working from inside out. Once you have a good coat of speed paint on there, you're going to use your Lamia medium to pull it away from the center areas, making those more yellow and leaving the outside a little more orange. The beauty of the Lamia medium here is that it extends the working time of contrast paint almost indefinitely. As long as you're keeping it wet, you're still going to be able to work with it. When you're working inside where you want it to be more yellow, go straight Lamia medium, making sure you're offloading any paint that was on the brush. As you go to the outer edges, keep some of that paint in there and you'll get that nice transition and that stippling effect. Now just keep switching back and forth from side to side, taking away paint where you want it brighter and adding a little bit more contrast paint where you want it darker. Remember not to rush this part. You have plenty of working time and you want the pattern to come through as believable and random. Don't be afraid to mix in some Lamia medium with your orange in the tray and use that on areas where the transition should go from yellow to orange. It'll give it a little bit more believability and help sell the effect. This step is very much about feel, so continually check your work, and when it feels like it looks good to you, just stop and let it dry. What you should be left with is a believable molten transition from extremely hot to slightly cooling on the outer edges. Next, we're going to take it up a notch by sponging on some dark orange red. I'm using red oxide, and this is a slightly damp sponge, almost completely offloaded, and I like to put this on the very edges, and I think it gives it a much smoother transition. You could use contrast filtering here if you wanted, but I just find this transition looks a little more natural. When sponging, the smaller the sponge, the easier it is to control and to get into the tighter areas. Remember to keep it slightly damp, but do not have it be soaked. I like to put it in a little bit of water, then wring it out with a paper towel. Also, go slow and kind of light-handed at this. It's much easier to go back in and do more than it is to try to take it away. Now we're going to come in with our white ink, or a bold white thinned down to glaze consistency will work as well. And we're going to use that for the recesses, anywhere where we want the axe to appear incredibly hot. I'm using it on the eyes here and also glazing it over the power rods. Remember that when glazing, you're going to want to offload a majority of your medium onto a paper towel to avoid spots where the brush leaves the model. Also, if you shake like I do, I've found a long, thin-bellied brush is incredibly effective for getting into the recesses, even if you are shaking. This one I got in a pack from Amazon. I think it's golden maple. It was like $5. It was worth it. Do as many coats of the white as you need to get to the opacity level you want. Remember, the brighter the white, the hotter it's going to look. Also, if you want a little heavy-handed with the sponging, you can glaze in some white in areas you want orange and just do some orange ink after the fact. Now you're going to come in with your yellow ink or glaze consistency yellow paint. I'm using fluorescent yellow from FW, but you can use whatever looks good. And you're just going to glaze that over the white to pull it back towards yellow. Remember that the more coats you glaze on, the more you're going to pull the color back to yellow. You can also glaze in some orange to those areas you want to make look a little bit hotter. If the transition doesn't feel as smooth as you'd like it, you can glaze some yellow ink over the orange to feather out the gradient. If your pattern's feeling too smooth, you can add some deep yellow into your yellow ink, and you can stipple that on in the gradient between the orange and the yellow. This will give it a little more mottled look and be more consistent with molten metal. Now taking our dark warm gray and a high cellulose sponge, we're going to offload almost all this paint, and then we're going to start sponging this on directly over our red oxide. It's important to try to get this only on the red oxide, leaving the orange and the yellow untouched. Less is more here, so start slow and easy and work your way up to where you feel like it looks good. As an additional but optional step, you can take a good brush in the same dark warm gray and stipple on random dots and scratches. This creates visual interest. And if you overdo it like I did here, you can try to use your eraser to take it off before it dries. But if it does dry, just try glazing some paint back over it and using the eraser again. I had some success with that, but just be careful because the paint underneath is delicate. Now we're going to come in with some edge highlighting of the same dark warm gray. Remember not to thin your paint for this and offload a vast majority before touching the mini. You want more of a dry brushing effect than wet paint. Stick to angles that are 90 degrees and greater when possible, and remember that you don't have to hit every single edge. If you do want to do edges that are less than 90 degrees, do a almost completely dry brush and do very light pressure strokes. Now we're going to come in with a mix of bright yellow and white, and we're going to apply that directly over the power rods themselves, using as many coats as necessary to sell the heat effect. And we're going to use straight white over the tips of the rods to show that they are the hottest part of the axe. Next, we're going to take a cool medium gray. I found that slate gray by Pro Acryl is perfect for this, and we are going to edge highlight and edge nick anywhere where there are large sections of the dark warm gray. This is going to help sell the effect that these edges are cooling faster and leaning more towards the steel color coming through. Plus, it's going to give contrast to the warm tones that we originally used. It's important not to overdo it at this point and only apply this to areas that are already dark warm gray. This will help sell the visual effect and increase realism. And that's it. That's all the steps you need. We came in right about 40 minutes, but I promise you we could have probably gotten that down. I was playing around a lot with the contrast spot filtering, trying to get it right. But truthfully, you could get that done in 2 to 3 minutes once you get to a point you like. Now, obviously, this works for power axes, but you can apply this to power swords and other power weapons. as long as you have enough surface area to really sell the contrast spot filtering, you're going to be able to use it to good effect. Here are some examples of some of the other ones I did, and I was happy with every single one of them and how they came out. So try it, see how you feel. Let me know down in the comments if it worked out for you, or if you found a tweak that maybe makes it a little bit easier, so I can go back and amend this recipe, put it back out to you guys. Credit where credit is due, obviously. I'll give you guys props, and we can try to make this the best, fastest, easiest, most user-friendly, most amazing, most unique tutorial on the internet, and we'll do it together. As always, I'm Gunnar. This has been a video, and we'll catch you in the next one.